folks, and welcome back to NTI's Japan Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Ziv Nakajima again, and this podcast is brought to you, among others, by Native Shark, which is an online platform for learning Japanese. And what Native Shark do is they make learning Japanese really, really simple. You log in, you click a button that says Study Now, and the platform then shows you exactly what you need to learn next based on your previous progress. Now, again, this is simple, but the way it's designed means that students who use Native Shark once a day for 4 to 5 months can complete the equivalent of over 2 years of university study. And this is not just them patting themselves on the back. Now that Native Shark's been in business for over a year, the results are in. So this is exactly what people are saying. Just looking at a couple of posts in their community forums, and the student community, by the way, is one of the best things about the platform. So one person's writing, most productive year I've had learning Japanese. And then another one says, I've started learning over a year ago with all of these other platforms, and what I learned there is only a fraction of what I've learned on Native Shark in just 3 months. And then yet another one goes, in my mind, my study timeline only started with Native Shark because that's when I really started learning consistently, and on and on. So yeah, the proof's in the pudding. It's definitely the best online course out there. And since you've heard about it here on the podcast, you also get an extra little bonus. If you sign up for their free trial using the URL nativeshark.com/NTI, and we'll link to it in this episode's show notes. So that's native without an E, so NATIV shark, all one word, .com/NTI. You use that link to sign up and you'll get a double length free trial. So 2 weeks free instead of just the one. No need to put in your credit card or anything of that sort. You can just sign up, give it a shot. And chances are at the end of these 2 weeks, you'll already be far ahead of wherever you are with your Japanese at the moment, whether you're just starting out or you're already in knee deep. Give it a shot. nativeshark.com/NTI. Okay, so for today's episode, we're back with your favorite Japan real estate experts panel. And on this occasion, we're also joined by a guest. Her name is Mika, and she works for a Tokyo brokerage that caters to foreigners. And not only to foreign buyers who are purchasing property in Japan, but also to foreign tenants who are looking for a place to rent, which, as you may have heard or experienced yourself, is not really a trivial matter in Japan, unfortunately. And we've spoken about this on quite a few occasions here on the podcast, but it's a well-documented pain point for a lot of non-Japanese residents of the country. So Mika tells us a bit about herself, her company, and how she ended up doing what she's doing, which is pretty rare here in Japan. And naturally, the conversation drifts a little bit from real estate to more general and social topics like discrimination, cultural differences, the effects of COVID, and so on and so forth. But a really fun, long chat with plenty of insights, or I thought so at least. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again on the other side. Okay, so we've got the usual crew, and there's Emil. Still Emil. Well, maybe it's not. So, yep, there he is. So we've got the usual crew, and we'll do our own introductions when Mika's done, but the people who are viewing this probably already have heard enough of us. But yeah, Mika, so tell us a little bit about your company and what you do.
Okay, so I work for a real estate agency in Tokyo, and we cover Tokyo, Kanagawa, and Saitama, Chiba, mostly those 4 prefectures. And we do normal rental and selling and buying of real estate and property management, monthly and weekly apartments, and also minpaku sometimes. And we usually work for foreigners and also Japanese too. So we cover, I guess, many things.
And share houses, right?
Oh yes, we share houses too. Yeah, we have 5 share houses in Tokyo, and yeah, we run them. And
do you also work with auctions as well?
Auctions?
Yeah, or maybe I'm at the wrong website.
For closed properties and stuff like that? I don't think they do.
No, I don't think we do.
At the wrong website then.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I think, well, I met Mika specifically. So let's, whenever one of us speaks, let's do our short introduction. So we also work on behalf of investors and holiday home shoppers. And same as Mika's company, we mainly serve, not mainly, only serve foreigners, whether they're in Japan or out of Japan. So I met Mika when I came to Tokyo to view some properties on behalf of a customer. And she was really nice in showing us around, and she did a lot of hard work, and very, very politely took all of our annoying requests in and did everything that we asked. But one of the things that I really liked about when she told me her own personal story is that she's actually gotten into real estate, thinking about the difficulties that foreigners are facing when they try to also purchase, but mainly rent in Japan. So could you maybe give us like a little bit brief introduction of how you personally got into it? Like, how did you end up, first of all, how did you end up speaking English so well? That's pretty rare in Japan.
Thank you so much. I used to study abroad in Canada, in Toronto, for a year and a half. And I probably tried really hard to communicate with people. That's probably why my English got better. But yeah, I'm still trying to learn more. I guess that's the story of my English. And how I got into this industry is that I have a friend that lives in Japan. She came from Australia. And my English wasn't really good, or like I didn't have any experience at that time. I think 5 years ago. And she told me everything about her experience, renting in Japan and everything. Like she was struggling to find a guarantor or many things, like she can't really speak and communicate in Japanese. That was really hard for her to find a good apartment. And yeah, I heard about that and I started thinking about something, like I want to do something that I can help, especially because I had also difficulties in Canada too. So yeah, and
Difficulties in Canada as a Japanese renting a place, you mean?
Renting a place isn't that hard for us because we have like a Japanese community, and I think it's not like really, really strict in Canada than Japan, I think. But many things, like it doesn't have to be like renting, but the communication problems or being in foreign countries, that's like to live is not an easy thing. So that's why, yeah, I wanted to help with something like that, like communications or, yeah.
And then you found your company and your boss was open to the idea, or was he already working with foreigners before, or?
He was working before, and yeah, I was a little bit interested in investment. So yeah, that's also why I got interested in real estate. And yeah, he was working with foreigners already. And my senpai, she was also working with foreigners, and she is like really successful.
So senpai, for the non-Japanese speakers, that's like a mentor or like a senior colleague, or what's the actual definition?
She is, I guess, boss. She is my boss, but she's also still young, and I feel more like senpai, colleague. But
what's no? I mean, what's the definition of the word senpai in Japanese?
Senpai. Oh, sorry. Senpai is senior.
Senior. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're all in similar situation. Like Tracy, for example, was talking about how she helps people relocate. So, Tracy, could you maybe tell a little bit about what you do again, and then maybe specifically on the relocation front, because that's something that really takes unique expertise, doesn't it?
Sure. Well, so hi, Mika, again.
Hi.
Hi. So I'm CEO of Tokyo Family Stays, and we are a short-term rental company, and we have a Minpaku Kanri license, and we have a hotel license, which is like a Ryokangyo, and also Minpaku license for the places that we don't have the Ryokangyo. So we do a combination of short stays and medium stays. Before the pandemic, we were really looking after inbound tourists. So of course, when the borders shut for tourists, we had to really decide how we were going to use our existing properties. So I pivoted mostly to help Japanese people who were here for a long period of time. And they couldn't return back to their own countries or the countries where they were working. So these were expat Japanese who were living in China or Indonesia or other places that had really bad numbers, and their companies brought them back to Japan because of safety. They wanted to make sure that their staff and their staff's family obviously were going to be close to Japan, where the medical system was something they were more comfortable with than, say, perhaps Indonesia, which was having a really rough time at one point. And also, I've been looking after quarantining. So people coming into Japan who need a place to quarantine for 2 weeks, for example. And so that's what I've been doing for the last year and a half, nearly year and a half, yes. During this downtime, I've really been looking at ways in which that I can meet customers who need my services. So, and relocation companies need my services. So when people come in, they often need a few weeks to settle in. They need a few weeks while their furniture is arriving, and also for the relocation companies to find them longer term rentals. They mostly go into regular chintai, which is a rental, rather than going into a purchase situation. So we tend to be that bridge between arrival, quarantine, and also getting them into their own longer term chintai.
And then what happens when you run out of, do you only use your own properties or the properties that you've got under management, or can you also help them with like normal landlords that might have not been open to that? I have a lot. I mean, I know lots of people like yourself, Ziv, and like Emil, and other people who do run like more traditional real estate companies. And I also know a lot of other people who have a lot of other short-term, like furnished places. So what I like to do is find out what the needs are of the person who's staying and go, okay, well, you have this problem. Let me try and solve it with people that I know who can help you, rather than, going out into the marketplace with possibly unfriendly real estate agents. So I'll do introductions to people that I know and trust already. So that's what I tend to do, because there are some special problems, or that there are some special situations that especially inbounds find themselves in when they arrive. That Japanese people and a traditional Japanese real estate shop just doesn't fully understand or aren't able to cater to that. So there seems to be some fairly specialized real estate agents, like Mika, who can really help inbounds and foreigners. I don't want to say foreigners. It's just like people who don't know the Japanese system so well. So. And the landlords too, right? Like, I guess maybe that's more of a question for Mika, but like Mika,
yes.
You as well, I guess you don't always have available units that you're managing or available houses. So do you sometimes have to go and convince like traditional Japanese landlords to take on foreign tenants? Have you been in that situation?
Yes, yeah,
How do you do that?
do it.
I'm really curious, actually.
I do it a lot, but I usually say like I will be in between
Yep.
while the tenant is in the house. And sometimes some management companies say still no, but I just try many times. And I also tell them how many I handle, like how many people I have been handling, and they are happy about it. Yeah, so I guess I just try to talk and convince many times. That's how I do. And
A lot
also,
of them, that's really, I mean, that's a uniquely Japanese thing, right? Like I know in Australia, on the few occasions where we sort of even smelled that a particular landlord was not interested in foreign tenants, like you immediately kind of scream discrimination and you threaten them with lawsuits, and you tell them that this just not acceptable to do that kind of thing, and then they usually back off. But in Japan, that's a very common thing, right? Like people, landlords and agents feel very free to say, no, we don't take foreigners.
yeah.
Is that, I mean, I don't want to just sort of paint that with a brush of discrimination, but a lot of that's just fear, surely, and nerves, and shyness, right?
Yeah,
Racism is fear, right? Sorry, I'll shut up.
sorry.
Sure, I mean, yes, yes. I mean, that's a different conversation, but I'm trying to be generous, Sue. I'm trying to be generous.
Sorry, go ahead, Mika. I'll shut up now.
Oh, sorry. So usually many landlords and management companies are afraid of the communication problems. I don't think it's like really a discrimination. Well, maybe it sounds like discrimination, but I think mostly the fear is the communication problem. And also sometimes the cultural difference, such as garbage or how they live, like house parties or that kind of things. So yeah, these days there are some foreigner-friendly guarantor company that helps communications, like communication service. And I also like introduce the guarantor company, like why don't you use this guarantor company? They help with communication, and they can check how they like take up the garbage, that kind of things.
I could actually really use, it would be really good if you could send me a list of foreigner-friendly guarantor companies. I only had a couple of names on my list, and that would be good. We'd put it in the show notes for people who are actually looking, because a lot of the time, if someone's looking to rent a place, for example, where you or Tracy or somebody else might not be accessible to them, let's say in Nagoya or Osaka or whatever, then they can often approach through the guarantee company, right? Like they first talk to the guarantee company, and then the guarantee company can maybe even help them find a place, right?
Yes, I think so. Sometimes. Yeah.
And I think, I mean, the rest of us as well. I mean, Matt, your case, it's even worse because you're out in the sticks. And when people are looking to, I mean, it's purchase, it's not rental, but when someone's looking to purchase an Akiya in Inaka, there's not even a company like Mika's to talk to. I mean, you're the only option, aren't you?
True. And I'm kind of happy to report that while we have like anecdotes that we've heard of from other people who are not our clients, in our experience, it's pretty loosey-goosey. Well, not loosey-goosey in like a bad sense, but like it's not. I was a little bit, when we first started, a little bit like, like what if we run into this a lot more than I'm hoping we do?
Sorry, Mika doesn't even know. Sorry, Matt is actually the Akiya expert. Like he knows everything there is. Yep.
Wow, interesting.
So we actually, a lot of the spots that Greater Kanto, we're actually doing some business in Shikoku now. And I was actually just talking recently to Ziv about Oita and Fukuoka area. But by and large, we're Nagano, Gunma, Shizuoka, Kanagawa, Chiba, Saitama, and Yamanashi at the moment. with some outliers. But yeah, my company, Akiya and Inaka, specializes in Akiya and Inaka.
Interesting.
So you're saying that what? Sorry, Matt, you were saying that it's
It's
loosey-goosey, but
not, and again, just as with the Akiya themselves, it's a highly contextual and kind of geospatial issue. Some places are really open to things. I mean, we recently did run into a managing company that was quite xenophobic, let's say. And fortunately enough, we managed to get permission to go view the property, and it turns out that it was just kind of like, really, this is it. So it was fine in that sense because we weren't interested ultimately. But yeah, by and large, we haven't run into very many issues with stuff, but again, it's kind of like, maybe we're just getting lucky. We definitely don't, we haven't done business in every single municipality across Japan. So it's not like we can say with that much authority, it's not that bad. But yeah, generally rural areas or at least around Kanto, seem to be pretty open and like easygoing and stuff. I know when I lived in Tohoku, it was quite the opposite. Tohoku was pretty kind of locked down, or at least in my experience. But yeah, it's been pretty good so far.
But they're open maybe to the concept of having a foreign buyer, but they'd still need someone like you. Like, there's no way that somebody from Singapore could approach them directly, right?
Well, you can, but that's one reason why we exist. You can do that, but it's going to take you, in all likelihood, years to complete that transaction. You're going to run into all sorts of bottlenecks. It's going to be incredibly frustrating. Even throughout all of that, it's very likely that you still won't understand exactly what you're buying. And so, yeah, like, can you do it? You can. It is possible, but there's any number of stories for people who have even done it that just like, oh boy, kind of set yourself up for that one. That's also too where our partner agency, SDK Properties, comes in as well. I mean, they're highly respected in the real estate field, especially with regards to, strangely enough, metro area, Tokyo area, large multi-million-dollar sales. And so we've got some pretty serious firepower backing us. When we do go to an agent in the middle of nowhere and say, hey, actually, we've got this, crazy foreign person over here that wants to buy, but we've also got a very well respected organization working with us to take them through the process.
So they're like the buyer's side agent in your transactions?
So we work with them to take clients through the actual brokerage process, because again, we're not licensed agents. Yeah, we're the detectives, as it were, kind of the friendly face and stuff. But when it comes down to the hardcore legal official documentation, we work with them for the the brokerage, and as well work in tandem with them for the kind of municipal. What's the word I'm looking for? Municipal interactions, so tracking down missing documents, confirming, verifying documents, and things like that. STK is our partner.
Okay, gotcha. And Emil, in your case, I guess, again, you're not doing rentals, but do you ever run across landlords or listing agents that are just not open to working with foreign buyers?
So, no. So, so my focus largely is on residents, Japan residents, but generally it's a foreign couple, or maybe one spouse is foreign, one spouse is Japanese, that are looking to buy in their own personal house in Japan, or in Tokyo for the most part. So, maybe a young family or whatnot. Usually when we're doing the purchase, when we're looking to purchase, the sellers do not care about the nationality. They will ask about financing ability. So usually foreigners, for a foreigner to be able to get financing, they need to have a certain type of residency, and then once residency is met, all the same kind of employment requirements that a Japanese national would be required. So they often ask, well, hold on, can this person get a loan, right? Are they able to get a loan? And also, what's their income? How long have they been in Japan? Are they like permanent employer?
So you mean the agent asks that? The agent asks that, or the bank asks that?
The seller's agent.
The seller, okay.
So because they don't want us, it really sort of depends on the seller. But often, if, for example, the owner currently lives in the property, right? The situation where the owner is currently living in the property, the seller's agent needs to actually visit the property, schedule a time with the seller where the seller can leave for 1 hour or so we can attend our viewing. So he only wants to do that if he knows we're a serious buyer and we have the financial means to borrow, like our client can actually borrow. So, and they'll ask the same questions even if it was a Japanese. Even if my client was a Japanese citizen, they'd ask the same thing. What's their employment? What's their kind of income? And do they have financing pre-approval and whatnot? And so it's not discriminatory. Rather, they say, okay, well, do they have permanent residence? Are they able to get financing? Right? Because often, like, that's my first question when I have a potential client come to me. It's okay, like, how long have you been in Japan? What's your residency status? What's your marital status? Can you get financing? Before I start doing the search process, I need to just check, is this person even eligible for financing? Can they buy the property that we start looking for? And then what's the budget? And so a seller is also going to do the same thing because he's going to take his time and also his client's time, the seller's time, getting out of his house for an hour for us to go see it. And if he starts bringing any kind of just riffraff clients come through, anyone can come in, regardless of residence, even if it was a Japanese national who looks like a hobo when he's unemployed, he's going to say, well, hold on, why are you wasting my time bringing these kind of clients through? Right? So it's not discrimination. It's just proper, like, just basic screening of the client. Are they even a qualified buyer? So they're the kind of questions we get, but there's never been a situation where, we're not going to sell to a foreigner, because it's very different to rental. Rentals, the owner is always going to own the property, and as Mika said before, you have issues with communication potentially. Like, and I agree with what she said. It's not discrimination. I don't feel it's discrimination. It's they want to avoid potential communication issues. There's also potential that a foreigner will leave Japan. Maybe their work changes.
Yeah, we've had that happen on quite a few occasions, actually.
They'll do that. And even if we think of our friends, right? How many of our foreign friends, like in the 2 decades almost I've been in Japan, lots of the original foreign friends that I've had here are no longer here. But all the Japanese ones are still here.
Yeah.
Right? So,
yeah,
I don't know any Japanese that's like no longer living in Japan. Any of my old Japanese friends. So I feel that for the rental, they want a stable long-term tenant who they can communicate with hassle-free, right? Or if there's any issues with, even local kind of issues, basic relations with the neighbors, basic relations with the building management about putting, maybe there's a change in the trash schedule, maybe there's some renovation work going on in the apartment next door, etc. They put, the management company will put flyers and information up in the notice board or in the elevator. They want the tenant to be able just to understand that without any struggle, and without having to cause extra work for them. So it's, even if it was a Japanese citizen who doesn't speak Japanese, maybe they grew up all their life overseas. So hold on, although they're Japanese, they can't communicate very well. So the owner's going to say, well, there's going to be communication issues. So I give lots of benefit of the doubt to the owners, saying the reason they prefer Japanese and they say no to foreigners isn't because of discrimination. It's rather they don't want to deal with these other potential issues, communication issues or potential, quick tenancy cancellation or tenancy agreement breakages. Okay, they don't want to deal with any of that.
In Japan specifically, a lot of it is cultural in the sense that a lot of things that we as foreigners conceive as just management, in Japan, they're perceived as conflict, right? Like, I'm just thinking about cases where, like in another country, if your lease is due for renewal and, let's say in COVID time or whatever, and things are not going as smoothly, or you've got some, maybe your salary was reduced, or Tracy, that's cute. What have you done there?
You've disappeared into that.
So I mean, like if anything's changed in your financial circumstances, it is conceivable that you'd approach the owner and ask them to slightly reduce the rent, either for the next renewal or for a shorter period of time or what have you. But here, for example, we've had tenants in place for like, say, 15, 20 years. And when they moved in, they might have been paying almost double the rent because, you know, there has been deflation for 20 odd years. And then people today are paying a lot less than they used to for the same kind of place. But they would never approach us to ask for a discount. In fact, a lot of the time they'll just end up moving out just because they're too shy to ask the landlord to maybe reduce the rent a little bit. Which kind of, I guess this is perceived as conflict in Japan to negotiate the rent. Is that right, Mika? Like from your perspective as a Japanese person, I mean. Have you ever asked for a rent reduction when you were renting from a landlord? Would you consider
me
it?
personally?
Yeah.
No, I haven't done it, but I know I can do it. But I'm also shy. And I know more or less like the market price. So, but I've never been uncomfortable with the rent so far.
Yeah.
But if something ever happens, I would do it. But I think that also some foreigners also do it. Some Japanese people also do it. So I don't really know. It's different.
The only really solution, is almost like a legal one in terms of like there needs to be, a federal law, for example, an anti-discrimination law, and that needs to sort of go through, that education needs to then go through different levels of society, and that's unlikely, we've all lived in Japan a long time. We all know that that's unlikely to happen, and that's something that's sort of not really going to come from, our lobbying power, which is quite low. So
I think there is a law. I don't think it's being enforced. And like Emil was saying, a lot of it is not perceived as being discriminatory at all. I mean, even Emil was saying in a previous Clubhouse chat that we had that even he, as a foreigner, would usually prefer a Japanese tenant rather than a foreign tenant, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've got short-term rentals. Tracy, you've got this experience as well. You have, when you see a guest has booked your place for, a house, and it's a family of 3, and they're a Japanese family coming from a different prefecture, and they want to spend the summer in Tokyo. Like, this is going to be cruisy. This is going to be cruisy, and because it is, like, you just have to explain how to get into the key. They probably lived in Tokyo before. They're familiar with everything. There's not going to be any communication issues. The neighbors are like, and even like my own personal house, right? Like when I go to Australia, like my own home, I put out on Airbnb, right? So, and I'm also picky about the people who stay, and it's a Japanese family is great. A group of, if it's Japanese, 8 Japanese college students going to come. Yeah, no, sorry, I don't want you guys staying in my personal home with my neighbors who I know. So is that discrimination? No, it's like I have like, I don't think it's okay to pull the foreign card or foreign discrimination card all the time when it's like, hold on, I maybe just feel there's other factors that are in play. So that's my general take on it. But again, the discrimination thing is a good example with sales. They don't, like, I haven't come across it in Japan or in Tokyo at least, when we're doing a sale. They'll ask where they're from, can they get financing, right? And that's it. And if the person can get financing and they're confident with my explanation, we haven't had any issue. And even if we do an application and we're competing with someone else, if we have financing pre-approved, then yeah, like they'll accept us as the first applicant. We won't have any issues for purchases, right? And these are, significant, anywhere from 50, from like gross amounts of 50 million yen up to like, 120, 150 million yen properties. There's no drama with that. So I don't want to say it's a discrimination I don't want to pull that card and whatnot. And I've also noticed, to be honest, it's with smaller properties, maybe places that are under 150,000 yen a month for rental, right? That are owned by individuals, maybe like just one family or one guy may own the building. He's the one who's quite cautious of foreign applicants. But when you look at properties 200,000 yen and up in the nicer buildings, like 200,000 yen a month rent and up in these nicer buildings, which are owned by full corporations, they are quite okay with foreign applicants as long as they meet the employment requirements and they can get the guarantor company. And the guarantor company requirement is now standard even for Japanese applicants. It's pretty common.
We have had a few sellers refuse foreigners outright, though, especially ones who own more traditional, beautiful, kind of handcrafted homes. They just don't want to see them going to non-Japanese, which I guess there's a bit of old school logic there, but it doesn't sit very well with me, I gotta say.
No,
That I've never heard that before. That's really shocking.
that's the trouble we run into. And
Oh, you had that too?
We've only gotten it one time, but it was specifically, I won't say exactly where it was, but it was a very traditional house. It wasn't cheap, but for what it was a reasonable price, very beautiful. The interesting thing about it was not so much the building itself, but on the property, there was an award-winning, and before I even say that, this place had been vacant in Akiya for like 7 years, right? And they keep upkeeping it, and they keep keeping it nice. And so there's, on top of, cleaning services and whatnot, there's also an award-winning Japanese garden, a very large one on this property that was quite pretty, which itself cost about $7,000 a year just to keep maintained, right? And so the manager of that property was we were convincing enough to actually get into the property, but doing that was quite the hassle. And required like considerable negotiation on just getting into for a viewing.
To see it, wow.
And the whole excuse though was that, well, this is a very important. Well, if it's that damn important, like why didn't you sell it?
Yeah. I mean, really, the solution, would be just to obviously, like I said before, is a legal thing, but also a public perception. And that's really only going to change when things like media changes. And instead of sort of foreigners being seen as like, the goofy sidekick on television, but to actually be seen as a class of citizen, as immigrants, then that's going to change the perception in the general population. It's just because there's only such a few percentage of us. Like we all know each other, and a lot of other foreigners. We all know each other and we hang around together. But to be honest, like in terms of the number of overall percentage, it's tiny. If you compare that to Australia, where mostly everybody is from somewhere else, but you don't get that here. So there does need to be a whether it's a media campaign or whether there needs to be a really good drama on TV that just shows that that foreigners don't have two heads and that we can have cultural appreciation and etc. So
well, I guess the occasional idiot foreigner that does live up to the stigma doesn't help either, right? Like Mika and Tracy, I think, would have a few stories about foreigners that sort of live up to the reputation of landlords refusing them for a good reason, right?
Yes. I mean that there are. I mean, not gonna lie. There's Muppets everywhere. It's but to sort of tar everyone with the same brush is not accurate. But there's no other narrative in the media, or there's no other narrative that people have to learn from. So it's chicken and egg kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna if I can just jump in briefly. I think often our conversations move away from real estate and into Japan society and be it Olympics or government policy and media and stuff like that. Let's bring it back to some real estate, because the other ones, like, I think you can just go on for quite some time.
Yep. Well, I mean, with purchases, we mainly deal in purchases. We don't actually rent directly to anyone. We do occasionally get foreign tenants, but it's through property managers like Mika who are okay getting foreign tenants in. But language is also a huge issue a lot of the time. That just can't be helped, especially if it's somebody who's relatively new to Japan. There's just no English facilities available anywhere, is there?
What's demand been like? Not for especially say a foreigner looking at investing in Japan now. I mean, what has demand been like, either for commercial property or for residential or even holiday houses? Mika, Ziv, Emil?
Demand. Like how are there a lot of tenants?
How big is the market?
A lot of people looking to buy.
The sales, I think it's pretty much.
You haven't seen much of a change since COVID, since Corona started?
I've actually started for the selling and buying a few months ago, like a half year ago. So I don't really know the details, but I think it got a little bit small.
Okay. And most of your customers who are looking to buy are looking for investment properties or for places to live?
Both, but I think mostly investments.
Okay.
From overseas, and but the rental got really, really worse since the COVID started. Yeah, but the sales is not so much, I think.
Mika, what kind of price range do your investors commonly looking at?
Usually, for our agency, I heard really small. Usually, many people are looking to start the real estate investment. So usually it's like 500万 or a little bit more, like 5 million yens to 10 million yens. But sometimes some people are looking to buy a little bit more expensive properties.
Now we're going to interrupt this broadcast. I always wanted to say that. We're going to interrupt this broadcast to give you a quick reminder that NTI is now partnered with Mita Securities Hospitality Property Fund, and they're offering their mind-blowingly gorgeous Machiya townhouses in Kyoto. So there's 4 of them, each about 100 years or older, lovingly restored and renovated to modern standards luxury. Stunning architecture and comfort, all the modern conveniences, including your scenic indoor or outdoor bath, spectacular dining and sitting rooms, disgustingly decadent Japanese or Western style bedrooms, high-speed Wi-Fi internet, kitchen, outdoor decks, Japanese gardens, the works. Now, each of these homes can comfortably host 2 or 3 families, including kids. So anywhere from 1 or 2 guests and all the way up to a dozen or so. And you can rent the entire house to yourself. So no other guests. It's all yours. Run around naked all day and night long if that's your thing. Supreme Japanese style luxury accommodation. And since at the moment there are still no foreign tourists in Kyoto, these places are available for rent at ridiculously low prices. So we're talking as little as $430 for a whole week. That's right, luxury accommodation for an entire clan, 2 families or more, for as little as $400, $500, or $600 a week. Obviously, the longer the stay, the cheaper the rate is, but you can rent these for anywhere between 1 or 2 nights and up to a month or more. So perfect for a weekend getaway, extended holiday, workcation, family reunion, company retreat, or even as a gift to a valued client, whatever you might have in mind. And if you book these through our website, you're also going to get an added bonus of 1 or more 3,000 yen, so that's $30 QUO cards, QUO, Those are gift cards that you can use all around the country in convenience stores, restaurants, various stores, lifestyle shops, you name it. The number of cards you'll get depends on the length of the stay, but you'll always get at least one of these. So if you're in Japan, or even if you're out of Japan, but you think that you might be able to get in sometimes in the next year or two, and you've been thinking about spending some time in Kyoto, this is your chance to nab the best accommodation deal possible. So we'll link to the bookings page, which also has some amazing photo galleries for each of these properties on offer. Now, they all come with a fully equipped kitchen, but you can also choose to have your meals delivered to the property if that's your thing. The operator can arrange that for you at very reasonable prices. And if you can't see the show notes for any reason, just go to our website, nippontradings.com. That's NIPPON Tradings with an S, all one word, nippontradings.com/Kyoto-holiday-rentals, or just go to nippontradings.com and you'll see the Kyoto holiday rentals option on the top right menu bar. Now, we are already taking bookings, so some of the properties may not be available on your dates, but Mita security guys are super accommodating, and they'll do their best to find you an available property for whenever it is you're planning your trip. Get on there, book your inquiry, and take that dream holiday in Kyoto that you've been fantasizing about while these phenomenal prices are still available. And now, back to the podcast.
Properties and bigger.
Are they cash buyers mostly or financing?
Yeah, usually cash buyers
From overseas?
from overseas. Yeah, I
Okay.
think if you live in overseas, it's really, really hard to get financing, right?
Oh yeah, well we don't bother. Yeah, you can't. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can speak to your comment or your questions, your brother and Tracy, about how the market has, or what we've seen happen with the market to some degree. So my focus is largely on foreigners that are wanting to buy their own personal house. So again, when I say foreigners, often people with like a Japanese spouse, or they've lived here for several years and they want to make Japan their home. Some may have permanent residency, some may not, but they're all going to get personal financing. I'm in Tokyo, I'm in Setagaya-ku, our office is in Ibis, but basically, Minato-ku, Chuo-ku, Shibuya-ku, Setagaya, Meguro, Suginami, all that area we cover. Majority of our clients, so their families, maybe maybe got a young kid, or they just got married in their 30s, early 30s to mid 30s. So very traditional sort of family kind of dynamic. And what we've been noticing since COVID, especially last year, was definitely because it was quite new and this whole work from home. Now it feels like normal already, but it was quite new. So everyone's, crap, we need an office. I'm working from home so much. And even the suspicion with the new normal is I'm going to be home. I'm going to be going to the office once a week, twice a week. And now, actually, since last year, now it's like, I'm going to the office once a month, twice a month. Yeah. And that's it. That's become really common, is what they're expecting for the new normal to be like. So instead of needing to be 5 minutes or 8 minutes walk from the station and 15 or 20 minutes into Shinjuku or Shibuya or Otemachi, like downtown, they are okay because they don't need to go there every day. They're okay they still want to be on the train lines that go into Shinjuku and Shibuya and Shinagawa, etc. But they're okay being a 30-minute train ride, and they're okay being 15 minutes from the station, because the daily commute to work is now not a daily commute; it's a bi-weekly commute.
So the house becomes a lot more important than the location.
They need an extra room.
Yeah.
They need an office because, again, my clients are almost always families. But even if they're single, they're like, couples without kids or singles, they need an office space. But ones with families in particular, they felt the pinch when all of a sudden you have a 2 LDK with one kid or two little kids, and you can kind of make it work with the 2 LDK. But when the parents have to work from home and they're trying to do this Skype call and kids are running around in the living room, or this little room is like they got a bed right here, and it's just their little desk in their dark bedroom. They're like, this is not sustainable for.
There were some pretty creative solutions out there when Corona first hit. Have you seen those, like little partitions that you can sort of set up like a portable room inside the house? Some people were working in tents. There was a lot of interesting stuff out there.
Yeah. So one of my friends and clients, so maybe you guys heard of Koala Sleep. They sell those mattresses, the foam delivered mattresses. In the US and in Australia, it's quite a big business, and Koala Sleep is, I think, one of the larger ones in Australia. And in Japan, I think it's a new market. It's basically, mail order foam mattresses, and you get it delivered. And they only have like 3 varieties, something like that. They started a work from home desk, and it's basically like high density cardboard that you can just fold and it slides together, no screwing, etc. So it's a work from home desk. And they just sold out like in Australia, and I think they released it in Japan as well. And they're just like selling out the WFH desk setup. So
you've
yeah,
seen a
definitely
lot of
over
demand. You've seen a lot of demand for homes generally, or different homes, or bigger homes, or more remote homes, or what?
So one thing is people are okay being a little bit further away. So generally, people that were looking to buy in Tokyo, like, I'm a good example. Like, I like living in Tokyo. So all of a sudden now, if I don't, if someone like myself doesn't have to go to the office 5 days a week, I'm still not going to go move out to Gunma.
Yeah.
Right? I don't want that country lifestyle. I don't want, like, I'm not Matt. I like still being, active in the city. So, so clients that are like that, they're doing, they want to still be in Tokyo, but they can be all right because their budget hasn't really changed, but they need a bigger place. So they're okay, instead of wanting to be 10 minutes or 15 minutes out from central Tokyo, they're okay being 30 or 45 minutes away. Okay. But they still want access to Tokyo because they still want that lifestyle. Right.
Yeah.
The people that are wanting to go out to, like, Kamakura area, for example, right? Shonan area. They want to be the beach lifestyle, or like to Nagano. I mentioned Gunma before. They're okay to completely move away from Tokyo, and they know their company is 100% remote. They are the ones they've always wanted to live away. They're not city people. They've always been keen. So there are a few people like that, and because I don't do purchases in that area, I'll help them with sort of advice for financing and which banks. The basic finance strategy is no different to whether they're buying a property in Tokyo. However, I don't really help with the purchases there because that's not my thing. And I've got some people that are looking for, even they want a base in Tokyo. They might get the main house in a different prefecture, but they just want maybe a 1 LDK in Tokyo, so they can sort of come back for maybe a few nights a month. So that they're the kind of pattern that we see. But the ones that I'm really working with on a day-to-day basis, or even my existing clients that I've had in the pipeline that I've worked with for the past 2 years, over that, once COVID sort of hit, they still wanted to buy a house, but they were a bit more flexible with, look, you know what, we can be further down the train line. So when we're talking like, a 20-minute kind of further down the train line, and instead of wanting to be just 10 minutes from the station, they're okay being 15 minutes, maybe 17 minutes from the station.
So I have a question though, Emil. So are these people that already have a mortgage and they're selling their current property to buy a new property? I know that's something that happens a lot in Australia, but normally the people that I see in my little circle, it's like they get their mortgage when they get married, and then they have the same mortgage forever, and then until it's paid off, and then the house comes down. But are these people that are new buyers? They've never had a mortgage before, or are they have a mortgage and they're selling and they're getting a new mortgage? What's the situation for that?
The majority of my clients are first home buyers. So they are, again, like younger families. So they're like, you know what, it's time, we're having a family, got young kids, or we want to have kids. So it's time to buy a family home. All right. And I've got 3 kids. They're 7, 6, and 3 now. So they're maybe just I'm maybe 5 to 8 years ahead of them in the family life cycle sort of stage. So there's a lot of personal advice I can also give about, you know, size of rooms, how the dynamic is once you have kids, and
Here's
that
what's
sort of
going to
stuff.
happen.
So, yeah, like you know, like look, sorry, like you want to have two kids or three kids, a 14 jaw LDK, 14 jaw, it's just not big enough. You can't have three kids running around in 14 jaw. There's barely room for a little dining table and a small sofa.
Yeah.
Right. So there's stuff that I can give, and that's why majority of my clients are kind of, again, their family structure, what they intend to be in 5 years is, I'm already at that stage. So there's a lot of advice and input. And my first house was in Shibuya. It was a 3-bedroom, brand new build. That was 7 years ago. And then I bought a 4-bedroom in Setagaya. Right. And so they're almost looking in even similar areas and similar kind of stuff that I've personally experienced. And I've done a lot of modifications, like the second house that I built, I learned from the first one. So Western style oven, Western dishwasher, change the color, the flooring color selection, wallpaper, all those kind of modifications that people sort of think about. I've experienced firsthand, and I've gone through it firsthand. So there's a lot of input and understanding I can give there with the clients. So most of them tend to be first home buyers. There are some that are second home buyers, and the second home buyers are the ones that their children are about to move out, like they're maybe 18 years old or 19 years old, going to university. So the parents are, maybe in their 50s or so, and it's time to sort of change and downsize. And either they've been renting and it's still going to be their first purchase, or they're going to sell their home. And there's three scenarios. They're currently renting, so it's, even though they're in their 50s or almost 60, it's their first home purchase. Alternatively, they will sell their existing home and buy a new one, which the strategy, I think that's a question you're asking, Tracy, is how do they do that in terms of financing aspect? That, because you can only technically have one home loan. And the third approach is keep the existing property and with the home loan and buy another property and rent out the first one, or use the first property as an investment. But to your question, Tracy, what happens when I'm not getting many people that are, for example, young families that are currently in their place saying, we can work from home now. So you know what? Let's sell this place and buy another one. Generally, when they've bought a house, it's probably kind of maybe got the spare room or the extra space. Because when you buy a place, it's like it may be bigger enough already. Because when you buy, you kind of get the bells and whistles, and you kind of make sure it's one that's got a lot of longevity. So if they just need an office space now, then it's already there. It's when they're renting, they don't want to waste a lot of money on rent. That's when they're cramming the whole family into there, and the family's sort of grown. And then all of a sudden, you need to have an office space. Ooh, then they're like really feeling the pinch.
I guess for mixed couples as well, if one of them at least is a foreigner, there's always going to be the thought frame that they're going to have family visiting, right? Like you always want at least one spare room for visiting relatives and such. Yeah,
that's a big one. So that's the office. Like previously, it's like, you know what? I don't need a dedicated spare room just for foreign visitors. It's nice to have, but if there's a bit of a layout, if I can have the larger living room for the occasional guests and stuff with a bit of a division, that's suitable, because my foreign guests are only coming maybe 3 weeks a year.
Yeah.
Right. But now it's like, they need the office space. And so the office, and they can just say, look, plus for when foreign guests, my family and friends come over, they can even more so justify having the extra room.
So demand is the same, but a little bit of a different profile. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit of a different profile. I would say the demand is even more because they are getting squeezed out, and they're realizing, and like, look, right now, the way Japan has handled it, like, I think we can question so how it is. But I'm from Australia, and the way it's like, people can't leave their house in Australia. And how you see a lot of other countries, especially last year, we're so lucky to be in Japan. And also just the conflict and like the political side of stuff. The political debates they're having, and then the restrictions that are being imposed in the US and in Australia and in Europe, the situation. Like, I think everyone's like, I'm kind of happy to be in Japan. I'm all right just being here. And so it sort of solidifies that, yeah, you know what, this is a stable place to be. So they can bite the bullet. And also getting financing is such a good deal. Buying a house in Japan is such a great deal. We can get 100% loans, 105% financing for 0.5, 0.6% interest. We just had the house in Shibuya close. It was like I think it's a 90 square meter, 3-bedroom house with like a 10-jo rooftop. It's only 10 years old. Yeah, it's 10 years old last month. So it's a pretty good house, southeast corner block in Shibuya Ward. That was like 78 million yen. And the bank gave them 81 million. Because all the closing costs, everything. So their out of pocket was like 100 or 200,000 yen.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Not even, right? Yeah. So, and the interest rate is 0.575.
Is it bad manners to ask, what sort of, like how many a month you're doing? Like, are you closing on 10 a month? Are you closing on 50 a month? I mean, obviously not exact numbers because that is bad manners, but
I wish you that. No, mine's less than that, a lot less. But I don't even know the office numbers. Because we have it's a team kind of dynamic.
Yeah.
And it's not one person responsible for one particular thing.
Sure.
Right. Yeah. And also so the team generally, like we have 7 sales staff. The team itself is responsible for, has quarterly targets, as most sales businesses do, except me. I'm the only one without without targets, because I need to have a long-term relationship with my clients. Generally Japanese internet inquiries. So when a Japanese person will jump online and inquire with an agent, or even a foreigner, you jump online. If you're an internet inquiry, there's no relationship with the agency. So when you come and you do a viewing with the agency, we just went online, you may have 3 viewings scheduled for that day with different agents, right? Yeah. Each agent is going to try to knows that you may just disappear tomorrow. If they don't try to capture you for the deal, or just say, oh, we've got these other ones coming, they'll say, oh, look, we've got a few others, let me show you. Then they know you may disappear and they've lost the deal. So they're a bit pushy with closing on a property with you. Whereas in my case, I know that my clients join me often from referrals, or they watch this video and like, oh, you know what, I want to work with Emil. Because look, all agents pretty much have access to the RAINS database, and so we all have access to the same listings.
But not all agents can help foreign buyers, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. So whether they come through me, or they go to Mika, or they go to any other agency, we're going to show them pretty much the same listings that they want. If they want houses in Setagaya for this price, we can do it. But like I said, often they're similar family situation to me, so I can explain some things about them. I've done the purchases myself. I've got 2 first-hand experiences with purchases, so there's that advice I can give them. A lot of other agents don't have that, and also the financing. So because we're a licensed agent, we have loan officers at the mega banks that are assigned to our agency. And because I've got lots of experience with foreigners and their specific situation, I'm good at knowing which agency which agency will give the best financing to this particular couple, this particular family in their situation. Maybe the spouse, maybe they're foreign. Often it's a foreign husband with a Japanese spouse, if it's that mix. If they're and if they're a family, often the wife is either on maternity leave or they're expecting that. So the husband is going to be the primary breadwinner. And so his residency status is a big issue, right? Is a big question. So if they don't have permanent residency, well, which bank is going to give you the best finance? An inexperienced Japanese agent will just say, oh, we'll go at SMBC, you can pay a 20% deposit. I'm like, hold on, I know some banks based on your situation, we can get you 100% financing. You don't need to pay any deposit. Okay. So we can get them, because of our experience, I'm confident we can get them a better financing deal, or just that information is more is going to put them in an overall better situation and able to buy them a better house.
But that's also
So
why
because
the
I'm-
sale process is longer, is it?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm not pushy on sales. I will gladly go to 30, 40 different places because I'm not concerned that you are going to just jump on the internet and contact any other agent. That may happen and I may lose that client, but I know if I'm pushy and try to sell you a property that you don't want, you're not going to come to me anymore. So I'll gladly walk into a property with you and go, look, like you can say it's great. And I'll say, you know what? I don't think you want 3 kids. The living room is not going to be good. The street is on a slant and there's lots of traffic. Like you're not going to be able to, the kids aren't going to be able to ride the bicycle here or have a kick of the ball. The soccer ball is going to go rolling down the hill. There's a bunch of stuff negatives I'll gladly say about what I feel about the property in terms of what I think they're, family stuff. And the client can do whatever they want with it, but I'm not pushy on sales. So that means that my clients aren't, so I don't need, and because I don't have a quarterly target, I don't need to close someone by any particular deadline, right? I can have clients for 6 months, 12 months, it doesn't matter. And so that's why I have a good relationship, and that's why I get a lot of word of mouth. None of my clients come from random internet inquiries like all the Japanese side of our agency. Most of our agency do Japanese, like 95% of the business is Japanese deals. So yeah, that's going back to your sales question, Tracy. Yeah, that's a dynamic. So it works a bit different with the foreign side of stuff. And also, I do have some clients that eventually they will, maybe they're just walking down the street and they'll see an open house. Oh, this looks interesting. They'll jump in and talk to whichever agent is doing the open room or has the open house for a brand new property. They'll go in and they'll like it, and I guess they've got to do the deal with that agent who's there because he's shown them and they've sort of liked it and he's discussed the process, and they'll go ahead with that agent and they'll call me up and say, Emil, sorry, we kind of just are working with another agent. We're buying this other place. We're sorry about it, and that's fine. Even if I've got a long relationship with them, I'm not upset because that's how it is. When one of their friends goes to their housewarming party or any other thing, goes, oh, wait, congratulations, you bought a place, I'm looking to buy as well. They won't say, Tanaka-san at that did the open house is the guy you should speak to. They say, oh, you know what, get on a phone call with Emil. He's the person. So I'm happy to put in the time, even if I'm not going to get the deal, because the referral network that they get, that I can get from that is more valuable.
Yeah.
So that's how my sales sort of side of thing works.
I guess I was just curious on how many people are buying at any one time. So, how many are buying from Emil? How many people are buying Akiya at any one time? How many are buying through Ziv or Mika? I mean, because I'm in a different, field completely, and I just didn't know if anyone watching this video would be interested to know, what sort of levels there are.
How's demand on your end, Matt? So, no microphone, Matt.
Just pressing the space bar when I need to talk, but it doesn't work very well because I keep remembering it. Yeah, demand is really good right now. We're at about onboarding a new one every week. So things are going great. We're not at, there's 2 of us all told. So it's not like we can take on, 30 or 40 some people at the same time. But yeah, things are moving pretty briskly.
So that's one or two customers and like new people looking like per week. That's really
cool. And so keep in mind that we have,
you got a long sales process, right? Your sales arc can be very, very long.
It can be. On average, it's about 6 weeks, I'd say, but it's kind of segmented, and then also our pricing structure is different. But by and large, it's a very similar process. It's merely that we charge up front for the services, which no real estate agent operating in kind of the standard with standard-ish anyway properties in the right mind would want to deal with. So just by necessity, it's like, all right, we can help you, but you need to pay us first. Otherwise.
Yeah, same with us. The only way we will work. And again, because of the relationships, Mika actually knows very well. We've recently been looking at some properties, and if we don't charge our customers in advance, we're going to get all kinds of tire kickers and people who just run us and our agency partners through the motions without actually doing anything, and that harms our relationships. So.
I must say though, recently we don't get that many tire kickers, but we do get them, and I'm just done with tire kickers for the most part. And so I've definitely gotten a little bit more, not brash, but like, okay, look, here's how we're about 3 minutes into this conversation. Here's how it is. Like this, here's how much it costs. We can totally help you out, but like, you need to know that this is what it is. How's that sound? And they go, oh, wow, that was really easy to understand. Okay, yeah, let's do it.
I'm happy to entertain people on emails and phone calls and video calls forever. But once we involve an agent, somebody like Mika's company or anybody else, they have to pay in advance. We're just not gonna put our partners through the emotions. But to your question, Tracy, we since Corona, we've actually been experiencing a huge uptick, at least especially in late 2020 and the beginning of this year. To the point where my wife and partner Chikako has not put on the brakes and told me to tell all new customers that there's going to be at least a 1 month onboarding process before we can even start looking at properties for them, because we just can't. Same as Matt, we're a small company and we can't handle too many transactions before we can hire new people. But when things go well and I am allowed to sell as much as I want to sell, we're similar. We probably close, similar to what Matt was mentioning, something like 4 or 5 transactions a month.
I didn't realize that you guys were being paid up front. That changes the conversation in my head a little bit, because, if that's the, I can probably help out. If there's money up front to be made, I can help out, because in the short-term rentals, it's, obviously I'm in medium-sized rentals. I'm not turning over people every 2 days like I normally am. So
well, we do some work before we get paid. So we'll put in a couple of hours of free research and we'll show people some samples of what they can get at their budget in the current market. We'll give them advice. And again, we're happy to exchange emails with them forever. But once they want us to start making inquiries and submitting offers and contacting agents and due diligence and so forth, then we need to get paid, yes. Otherwise,
interesting.
Look, overseas, it's a typical strategy to submit 5, 6, 7 different offers on 7 different properties and then just go ahead with the one that you like the best. But if you do that in Japan, those 6 other agents are never going to speak with you again. So we can't afford to go down that track.
And by and large, tangentially, this is one reason why we choose not to have very many public listings on our site. Just because if we go, just like you were saying, Ziv, if we go and do the due diligence, if we go and actually take proper visual documentation, video, drone footage, actual photographs, if we make it look good, but we don't have even an potentially interested buyer, we're just throwing stuff up onto our site, hoping that somebody is interested in it. That's a whole lot of work with no guarantee at all of any kind of return on it. So
and for those rare cases where people do want similar services to what Matt's talking about, like they just want to make inquiries and look at potential properties and think about stuff, then we just charge them by the hour.
Right. Yeah.
I need to change industries.
So I think Mika, Mika, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
I'll talk about the rental and the share house. I think the share house is getting a little bit slower because we had mostly foreigners in our share houses, and I think the border is now closed. So people can't really get into Japan from overseas.
Plus with Corona, they're probably scared to live with other people too, right? No? Okay. Maybe not. I guess not.
I'm not sure. But many Japanese people inquire to share houses these days because of their job for like economical situations, because share houses tend to be much cheaper than the normal rental.
Yep.
For example, the normal rental moving fee, like initial moving fee, is like super expensive in Japan because we have lots of fees.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we have a lot of Japanese clients these days, but not a lot like before. And we have many vacancies in our share houses. And yeah, I think the share house is like now it's a difficult time, but we understand. And the rental, I think, is coming back slowly. Yeah,
Rental,
we have
you mean long-term rentals or short-term rentals?
yeah,
Or both?
long-term
Long-term,
rentals.
okay.
Yeah, usually like 2-year lease. And I think that was like really dead until a few months before, but I think it's coming back these days. And I have sometimes like 10 clients, 10 or more a month. And now I'm talking to many customers and I'm getting busier and I'm happy about it.
Yeah.
And yeah, once we open the border, I hope many people are going to come into Japan again. And yeah, we have short-term and long-term rentals more, and hopefully share houses too.
Fingers crossed.
In terms of
We have
turnover
been
numbers.
seeing a decent uptick, kind of on a minor scale, so I wouldn't call it a trend, but specifically in Izu, like upper eastern Izu Peninsula. Share houses are definitely like a happening thing. There's a lot of people buying up smaller Akiya specifically,
Yeah.
and retrofitting them either to be. In fact, I'll start managing another share house built in a like a bekkan. It's like, what do you call that? An annex of a ryokan. That a friend of mine and I are working together with. This is excellent ryokan that's being converted into a share house. So there's noticeable activity on that, but I feel like the Izu Peninsula is kind of a very specific sort of area. So it's definitely not, I don't hear too much of it outside of, honestly, yeah, like where I am in Izu, which is around the Atami area.
I should have asked you guys. There's at least 3 of you here that are working with 2 of you that are working with share houses at least, but Tracy, you've got some houses under management too, I guess, that some of them might be vacant. So we're looking for a place in December to rent for a weekend, a business networking and gaming weekend. So we're going to get together a bunch of people who are into board games and card games and also into business networking. So we've got a few candidates in Kyoto, one in Shibuya, one in Hakuba, one in Yuzawa. But if any of you have got affordable houses, I hope ideally with a lot of table space, please let me know, especially if the prices are attractive.
Define
Yeah,
affordable.
keep that in mind.
Define affordable.
Affordable. Okay, well,
How much can you spend?
well, the estimates that we've got so far range from 250,000 yen for the weekend and all the way up to 350,000 yen for the weekend. But these have got to be places that can sleep up to 15, 16 people.
You know, actually, this is a little bit, not tangent, but like, not exactly what you were asking, but there's just countless absolutely excellent onsen hotel in my area, like Upper Izu, that have like large, I mean, I guess kind of what amount to not boardrooms, but like, you know, gathering rooms that have tables and.
Yeah. Have you tried telling these onsen owners that you're going to bring 15, 16 gaijin?
I have, actually.
Yeah, they're okay with that? Oh,
yeah, they're
brilliant.
totally fine with it.
Hook me up.
There are no discounts, but
Yeah.
they said they're totally fine with larger parties.
Yep.
I mean, I'll send everybody a link to, there's this spot called New Well City in
Yeah, well, if anyone of the viewers is actually, this is a good time, and we've been doing a bit of that too with Kyoto at least. This is a good time to get really good accommodation deals on, workations, holiday stays, family reunions, if you're looking for a good, cheap place to rent. But Matt, you're saying they're not reducing the prices.
Not yet. If I keep asking them, they might. But yeah, I just sent over in the chat. I go to this onsen like every weekend.
Yep.
But it's a large onsen hotel right on the Chitose River, in the kind of the luxury-ish district, Miyakami of Yugawara.
Yep.
And I love it. It's awesome. It's a great place. I highly recommend it. Their food's great. Onsen's great. They've got a bunch of tables. So that might also be a good opportunity. It doesn't make any of us money, but
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes as well. Thank you. Do they speak English, by the way, the owners?
I always talk to them in Japanese. I kind of doubt
Okay.
they do.
Yep.
But also too, Yugawara is one stop up from Atami, so you can take the Shinkansen from Tokyo down to Atami and then get on the Tokaido and go one. So it's pretty accessible.
Awesome. So I think
My
we've
issue
been
with
at
that-
it for like an hour, 15 minutes. We can probably slowly bring this to a wrap, unless anyone's got any questions.
Well, I do want to sort of. There's two things I want to say. So the first one, to Tracy's thing about business and turnover right now. We have, just to give you an idea, our agency, we have about 700 properties under management. We have a real estate, property management team. So that works on rental. So we manage properties and for rental. So other agents are looking for rental, they'll contact us and they'll get their agency fee, but then we take care of the tenant once they're in there and whatnot. So we have about 700 properties under management, and that we do about 10 move outs a week. So because of that number, that means we do full cleanings and wallpaper. Often, like wallpaper gets redone, any maintenance, repairs, all that sort of stuff. So because of that, because that's sort of grown over the past few years, we now have a renovation team as well that do that they coordinate the cleaning, they coordinate wallpaper stuff. But now we've gone and doing sort of even larger renovations, house renovations, full skeleton reforms of mansions and stuff. But yeah, just the cleanings and like the turnover, about 10 a week of tenants.
I admire
well.
people that work directly with tenants. For us, even dealing with the property managers is a pain in the bum.
Yeah. But then the last thing I think we're talking about, like Ziv and Matt, you're talking about onboarding. So yeah, what I do with that, we don't get paid until the deal gets closed. Once the client finds a property, then because we're a typical agency, we charge the 3% agency commission. I think Mika is the same situation. You don't get paid anything until the client rents or buys the property, signs the contract.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of the onboarding process, usually I have like a 1 hour phone call with clients. So, if anyone's sort of watching this and is just saying, hey, we want you're curious about, maybe you don't even know if you have the ability to finance or to buy yet. Maybe, you're foreign and you don't know your situation. You don't know how much you can borrow. Maybe you don't have permanent residency yet. You've heard different things, but you just want more information. So I'm happy to jump on a phone call or a FaceTime for 60 minutes. And you just take 60 to 30 minutes to 90 minutes for whoever I speak to really get a proper idea of their situation. One, whether or not they can buy now, and that largely that's based on financing, how much they can borrow, but their financing ability, how much they can borrow based on their situation, and whether they can get 100% financing or 80% financing or not at all.
Yeah,
that's a financing side. And then realistic ideas on the property market and what kind of property they can buy in which area based on their budget. Okay, so that's, although people think, 20-30 minutes should be enough, it ends up being at least an hour, if not 90 minutes to get to know them. And that's, there's no obligation on anyone's side. Sometimes if they're just curious. And I also, although I focus on properties in Tokyo, I do get some people that are, they're curious about the financing side, because they also do like a mortgage brokering service for our clients. So we have lots of experience about financing. So if someone wants to know about, even if they don't live in Tokyo, then they're, in Osaka, etc., and they just need some pointers or stuff like that, I'm happy to get a phone call with them, because again, it helps build the referral network. So if anyone's listening and just wants to figure out where they stand, how much they can borrow, what their situation is, what's realistic repayments for borrowing, what their strategy can be, etc., feel free to reach out, send me an email. I think the link, you'll put the email address in this video, or get me on Facebook or Instagram. Just send me a message and we can arrange a call. Sorry, that's my sales pitch.
No, go for it. Go for it. We can all give a bit of a sales pitch before we wrap up if you want. Go for it. Let's Mika, go for it. What would you like people to contact you for?
Email probably.
Yeah, no, but I mean, what topics?
What kind of topics? For me,
you or your company, doesn't have to be you specifically. Somebody else in your company.
Rentals, share houses, and sales.
Yep.
Yeah, and anything like about life in Japan. I'm just really happy to talk with people.
That's actually a really good, I don't know if it's a sales pitch, but that's a really nice thing to say. So if anyone has got any questions on generally life in Japan for a foreigner, Mika is happy to chat. You might get some weirdos though, Mika, watch out. Eh?
Okay.
Or running share houses, you probably get your fair share of those anyway.
I bet.
Matt, Tracy, what do people contact you for?
I'm Matt with Akiya and Inaka. If you want to escape the chains that are wrapped around your legs and arms, living into the city, and escape to the wonderful climes and amazing environments of rural Japan, and live in a garbage palace that you yourself can renovate for only pennies on the dollar, get in touch. We can show you a real good time. But you got to pay up front.
Yeah.
I'm down for the good time.
Oh my goodness, I've got to try and follow that. Oh my goodness. So I run short-term rentals. So if you're coming into Japan, if you're going out of Japan, or you're in Japan and you need a place short-term, so fully furnished, all the utilities are covered, or if you have a property that you want to use part-time and the rest of the time you want to earn a bit of money using that property, then you talk to me because I can manage it. So I look after everything from the whole guest experience, making sure that it's bulletproof for guests, making sure you're getting the right guests, and taking care of them when they're in. So that's what I do. So it's Tokyo family stays. And obviously I specialize in family homes, mainly because of the minpaku laws. So if you've got any questions about minpaku, which is short-term rentals in Japan, I've seen it all. I've got a hotel license, I've got a minpaku license, and also month-to-month rentals as well. So I do that mainly in Tokyo, but other people ask me about sort of the Japanese situation, so I can help there as well. So that's
basically you also do consulting for short-term stay operators anywhere in the world, right? General short-term stay.
Yeah, so I believe that you can earn a ton of extra money on top of the nightly rate through other passive income streams, and I teach people how to do that. So how to do marketing. So it's a lot of like standard marketing practice, identifying your ideal buyer, finding their pain points, monetizing those pain points with affiliates or third-party vendors, and teaching people how to do that. Because with my properties, I can earn 20% more over and above what the nightly rate is on things like babysitting, on ground transportation, on, I've even organized things like private chefs and grocery shopping and all those sorts of things that my guest needs. And I monetize that at each stage of the relationship. So I do ticketing for tours, and so it's not just the stuff for Tokyo, which I know really well. It's I teach people how to do that in their own markets, and how to really be very locally focused.
How to be the perfect host and make money by being the perfect host.
The perfect host for your guest that's a good match. It's not just it's a matter of really getting the marketing to do your heavy lifting for you.
Good stuff. And as for us, anyone who's interested in investment in Japan or holiday homes anywhere in Japan, usually out of Tokyo, you've got better people here like Emil and Tracy and Mika who can help you with the Tokyo area. But anywhere elsewhere in Japan where good people like these don't necessarily exist, or are at least not accessible to foreigners, we're more than happy. To a certain point, if you're really digging into the sticks, Matt down there is probably more of your man than I am. All right. Thanks for your time, everyone. It was great talking to you again.
Thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.
you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you, Mika. I'll reach out to you
Nice
offline.
to see you too.
Nice
See
meeting
you.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right, that was a nice long banter. Hope you enjoyed it and found some value in it. And I know that we always ask you for feedback, but in this case particularly, we'd really love to hear from you, and particularly from your experience. So have you run into any issues trying to buy, rent, or otherwise live your life in Japan? Do you have any opinions on the matter? Do you have any requests for change? Anything that you'd like to see done differently here? We'd love to hear from you. So let us know in the comments section. Now, before we go, we're also, as always, going to tell you and also link to our other sponsor's website. That's Hiroshi Shimizu, immigration lawyer and administrative scrivener. If you're thinking about moving here on a more permanent basis, or you're already in Japan on some sort of a temporary visa and you want to switch to a longer term or permanent one, or if you're considering setting up a local company or a branch office of a foreign company and you've got any sort of business or visa related inquiries, or even if you just want to find out what your options are on any of these topics, feel free to contact Hiroshi Shimizu. You can find him at japanimmigrationexperts.com, and he can help you set up a company, apply for any kind of visa, or just provide you with the best advice and extremely affordable consultation related to these topics. And he's already done that for many of our listeners. So feel free to reach out to him. Again, that's japanimmigrationexperts.com, and you'll be well on your way. And that's it from us for today, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Japan Real Estate Podcast. Do share it with your networks, and please let us know what you think. So leave us a short rating or review on the iTunes Store, on Spotify, or just drop us a line in the comment section of wherever you might have found this episode. We love hearing from you. Hope to have you with us again next time, and until then, have a great day or night ahead. Yoroshiku.